What's going on, everybody? Today is April 18th, 2022. So it's the day after Easter. I hope everybody enjoyed their weekend. Just had some time to relax, spend time with family and friends. So today we will have a good one. We're going to have a full length overview of crypto. So we're going to go through some of these top coins here in the top 100s. Take a look at that. Understand what Bitcoin and Ethereum are doing. We're also going to look at some other coins here, and then also at the end go into some on-chain data and just look at some of those metrics. So if you guys are ready, let's go ahead and strap in and let's do it. So as we look at CoinGecko.com, as we all know, we come to CoinGecko.com just to get a good overview of what's going on in the market, right? And so as we can see, the total market cap of all of crypto is at 1.9 trillion. If you guys remember, at all-time highs, we were all the way up at 3 trillion. So that means we've lost $1 trillion. That means that money has left the market. And I would venture to say that a lot of that is retail. A lot of that are just people that are just not long-term hodlers. But as we all know, with the ebbs and flows, if we hit these bottom portions to where we kind of stay stagnant and there's not as much liquidity still in the market cap through time, that liquidity all just comes rushing back in, and that's how we create those tops. And so what we want to do is pay attention during these times when market cap is a little bit lower and start grabbing those good coins, because as always, as the retail groups of cohorts start to come back in, that means the top is near. And so when we start getting back to 3.5, 4, $5 trillion, then that's when we want to look to say, okay, well, hey, do we need to make some decisions? Do we need to start DCAing out the market? And we start looking at the top end of what we're experiencing. So with that being said, let's go ahead and look at market dominance. So Bitcoin market dominance, we're sitting at about almost 39%. And so that's actually pretty decent. And what we want to see through time is this metric to trend downwards, actually, is because that means when the market dominance for Bitcoin is trending down, that means Ethereum and the other alts are taking more market capitalization, which means, they're doing well and having higher price pumps compared to Bitcoin. We notice when Bitcoin's market cap dominance is going up, that means people are a little bit less willing to go ahead and grab these other altcoins, and they want to give themselves a little bit more protection against the downside. So they'll just go ahead and move their funds back into Bitcoin because they think it's just more of a safe haven. And so how we know that retail is coming back and people are just feeling confident about the crypto market is when we see this metric trend downwards. And so as we can see today, Bitcoin is sitting right about like 39,000 and some change. And so last night we did have some wick downs into that 38K range. And so that's interesting, is because, we've been ranging, and what I'll do when I show the Bitcoin chart is we're just ranging in between some just major levels, right? So we got all the way up to 69K earlier this year, or last year, I'm sorry. And then even before that, in the beginning part of last year, we went up to 65K, but then we've been experiencing these lows here. So it's been around like 30K, 35K. And so we've kind of come up in between like that 48K and that 35K recently in the last 3 months. And so, as Bitcoin consolidates and ranges, the lower ends of those price points that I mentioned are just so important to say, hey, I think this is a good time to DCA into crypto. So I'm going to show the case for that as we continue to dive in. And so with Ethereum, we are under 3,000, and I'm going to continue to show you guys Ethereum and what Ethereum is and why I think Ethereum is going to continue to outpace Bitcoin, especially because it's a younger Bitcoin, but it just has more use case at the moment. And so as we continue to scroll down, BNB looks like it's held up pretty decently, only down 3.2%. Bitcoin is down 7.1% in the last week, Ethereum down 9%. As to be expected, Solana down a little bit, Ethereum down. But still, Solana under $100 is still very, very good to DCA in my opinion. So let's go ahead and look at maybe some coins that have done well over the last 7 days. Okay, so, really we only want to get out of bed and pay attention to something if it is up more than 10%. Generally, 10% swings plus or minus in crypto is pretty normal. So we do have one here in the last 7 days, GMT. So this is Step In. This game is actually very interesting. It's kind of more of like a lifestyle cardio running type of app that you can actually use on the Solana network. And so I actually looked at this here a few weeks ago, and it's been doing pretty well. And so if you are someone who's a walker or a runner, you like going outside, basically what you can do is download their app, step in, and if you get a chance to be able to buy their NFT, so what their NFT is like a shoe. You can buy the shoe, and then when you have your phone in your pocket, technically you can essentially mine their coin by running. And so it's a pretty interesting thing. And, I'm excited to see kind of what happens with that, because it's definitely something new that I haven't seen within the crypto market. But if we want to go ahead and put this thing on log scale and just max it out. So yeah, it's kind of dwindled, and then it had a really, really, really nice pump up to that next level. Came down, it's kind of dwindling, and it had a really big pump up. So I would say the preferred time to be buying this would have been in here in this area, where it's kind of hitting its basin before it's kind of pumped back up. But let's see if it potentially either kind of calms down or if it decides to just go up. We don't know. But here is not necessarily the best risk adjusted time period to try to be purchasing this coin, but definitely something that we can definitely watch through time. And so over the last 30 days, it's up 300%. That's pretty impressive. And so typically we don't want to chase a pump. So what we'd like to see is say, okay, we see that it has legs. We want to see that come back down to a more reasonable price range if this is something that you're interested in buying. And so let's see, is there anything in particular that is down? So let's go ahead and flip this metric. Okay, so in the last 7 days, we have Mina down about 26%. And with that being said, Mina had a great week 2 weeks ago. And so typically, when there's a coin that's outperforming for a decent amount of time, then it adjusts a decent amount as well if Bitcoin is going down. So that's not too surprising. Convex, don't really know too much about Convex, but down 24%. Engine, I think still a great project. NFT based, one of the larger coins that people recognize when it comes to the metaverse stuff, down 17%. So that actually may be a decent pickup. Osmosis, another layer 2 off of the Cosmos network, and possibly a great pickup. And so, yeah. And obviously our main dog, Thorchain, they're doing so much here with ThorSwap, being able to get zero impermanent loss when you go ahead and stake over 3 months. And you could stake natively. So whether it's your Bitcoin, Ethereum, USDC, stable coins, and give you very, very attractive APRs. And so that's down. And as we know, it had a heck of a run over the past couple months. And so this is coming back to that area of saying, okay, we may want to put an eye back on it to go ahead and purchase some lows again, because we know it's just a good project. And, just some other coins. So Phantom here. And every time Phantom even gets close to $1, my eyes just light up. And so that's down 13.7% for the week. And so let's go ahead and hop over to the chart for Bitcoin and take a look. And what I want to really do is do a 30,000, well, like a large view. So what they say is like a 30,000 square foot view. And then we'll kind of dive into the shorter term stuff. But as you can see, when Bitcoin first came out, just extremely bullish, almost just straight up. And through time, kind of curves off. But what you notice is with these white lines kind of show it ranges, right? So range, up, down, break. And then it goes to that next level. Same thing. Up, down, struggles, kind of pops back down, break. And so as you can see, these ranges are just getting smaller and smaller, even though the price is getting higher and higher. And so this is the long-term trend over just a long period of time for Bitcoin. And so if you can see, that is just up and to the right. That's what we want to see on charts when we're looking at these coins. We don't want to see the coins that have just like crazy peaks and then very desolate valleys and just stay in the valley for years at a time, then a random peak. You want to see just consistent growth through time. And so this is over a span of, a little bit more than 10 years. And so, just the interesting thing I always love doing, you can pick any time on this chart, even if it's not in the last 2 years. I like to go even 4 or 5 years back. But let's just say you bought this top back in 2013 and you just held. The biggest thing is to just hold good stuff through time. I'm going to always continue to stress that because it's so important. Even if you just held from this top, you'd still be up 30x on your money. And then to the top of we were previously, you'd be up 48% or 48x on your money. And so, that's just one of the things, the power of holding. But the best part about it is when you understand where you're at in the market, which we go into detail in here, is you understand when you buy these lows, right? So if you were to buy this low with less time, right? So we're just looking back here, 2018. So not too long ago, you'd be up almost 20x in your money to all-time highs. And so that's just Bitcoin. And so if we want to go back way, because coins have the most exponential gain when they are definitely within their first like 4 to 6 years, right? And then they start to taper off through time. And so if you want to look at the type of returns Bitcoin was getting when it first started, I mean, you can take this small local peak here, and let's say you caught that low because you're paying attention, you would have experienced 117x within a span of, about a year and a half. And so that's just the power of crypto when you understand where you're at in that coin cycle, but understand, okay, well, what is a coin that is good for me to hold during a long period of time? And when I mean long period of time, we're not really talking about 15, 20 years. We're talking, as short as a year and a half to 4 to 5 years, right? And so as you can just see, these consolidating ranges kind of just get smaller and smaller and smaller through time. And that's where we are today, right? Like I mentioned before, we've ranged from that higher 60K range to the 30K range. And so we'll just oscillate. And then there's going to just be a certain point to where we just break out and hit that next level. And so what I want to show here is like the logarithmic growth curve, because like I said, through time, the gains are exponential, but then they taper off. And so if we kind of zoom into where we're at and we just take maybe like the last year, we haven't even hit the top of the logarithmic growth curve, and we're straddling this bottom portion, right? And then so when we're in this bottom portion, and even if we were to, I'm not saying that we will, because there's a lot of cases to say that we're probably gonna stay above this for the short term. But even if we did drop down to this 32K, 33K range, right? That's the lows, and we want to be buying lows. And the top of this growth curve is kind of sitting here, right? And so that's 168K, 175K. And so, I'm hoping and I'm thinking that as we continue to understand the path for Bitcoin, we will continue to learn how it wants to orientate itself. And even if it wants to come down to test this bottom part of the logarithmic growth curve, every time that happens, we trend back up to the top range. And so that's the exciting part, is because we know we are just getting attractive pricing. And so if you want to look at any time that we've gotten close to this line here, this has been a very just good risk adjusted time to be buying Bitcoin, but nonetheless cryptocurrency. And so, yeah, that's pretty interesting to just understand and take a look at. And so if we want to go ahead and zoom in, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the current price action from a few different ways. So what we want to do is, and I kind of organize things so we can just go one at a time, right? To just make things very simple and make the chart easy to look at. And so first things first is, okay, understand, okay, well, what is going on? And so let's go ahead and take a look at the parallel channels that we're in, the buy box, and just the major support and resistance. So if we look, so we're on the weekly chart, we can pop this into the daily chart. So as we can see, last summer, we were in that downwards parallel channel, oscillated in between, and then we broke out. And then so same thing here, since the all-time highs, we've come down and we've corrected quite a bit. So we've corrected from that top, we've corrected a solid 51%. And that's actually 1 for 1, because from this top here, very similar, about 53%. So 1 for 1 drawdown. Now with that being said, we're in an upwards channel, and so we're ranging on the upwards of this channel. So my thesis and my understanding is, hey, we're creating higher lows. And with that being said, we want to capture those lows in this upwards channel. And so the thing is, we still haven't had a strong break outside the channel. Now, last night we started to wick, but as you can see, as of this morning, it's getting bought up. What does that tell me? We just have really, really strong support. And then so what would kind of get me to say, okay, well, hey, we may make a lower low is if we break this strong support that we've had throughout the past 3 months, sitting right about 36 or almost $37,000. And then the area that we need to break would need to be this 48K range, is because we have struggled to do that. Now, with that being said, why is that a big point to break? Is because that's where the 200-day moving average has been lining up. And so as you can see through time, the 200-day moving average has been very interesting because we've had many times where we straddled it. So here, broke through, straddled here, resistance here, and then once again, resistance here. So what we want to do to stay bullish for Bitcoin on your crypto, we want to be able to break that 200-day moving average. And so we'll continue to see that. And if we continue to stay in this channel, then on this next uptrend, that looks like it may be a possibility. And so we'll keep eyes on this. But even if we break down in this channel, still a great opportunity to be buying crypto because we're still within our buy box. Now, if we want to go ahead and look at things from a 60-day cycle perspective, right? Now, we've had the downtrend, and what we've been noticing, we've been having these left translated cycles. So left translated cycles, meaning that before day 30, we're having a local high. And so typically, if we have a local high before day 30, it means that we'll probably trend down and find that low for the 60-day cycle before 60 days, and then towards the bottom part of the range, right? So the bottom part low here on day 49, and then these bottom parts right here, so day 51. And then so what we will most likely see is, as time goes on. So currently we are on day, let's see here, we're on day 35. And so within the next week, what we can expect is to be closer to this low than we are to like getting back up to this top range. And so, we may find this local time-based low somewhere here within the next week and a half, and then shoot up. And so that's kind of what we're going to be looking at here for the 60-day cycle, just paying attention to that. But nonetheless, if we do break this channel, right, that would kind of be more understandable because we're looking at that range kind of being closer to this day 49, right? And so, if we do pop back down to 36.8, I wouldn't be mad, because that would make a lot of sense before we would kind of trend back up for the new 60-day cycle. And so the interesting thing is to understand, like macro wise, is that, we are in a consolidation period before we have another leg up. And we have not created lower lows. And typically, when you continue to create higher lows, you're not in a bear market. Now, it would be different, right? If we were just creating lower lows from, back here, right? So we're getting lower than 29K, and then we continue to trend downward through time, then that would be very, very strong signs of a bear market. But that's just not the case because, we're trending up and we're having good support here in these levels. So let's go ahead and dive a little bit deeper and look at some of the indicators that we have here. And so if we want to turn on the Bollinger Bands, let's kind of clean this up a little bit. So what we're seeing on the Bollinger Bands is we're much, much, much lower than the 20-day moving average. And so typically, as we kind of push down, you see these bands opening up. So this is opening up to the downside, and you kind of see it curving a little bit. That is kind of lining up with the support. So if it continues to curve, right, that'll be actually very strong, saying, hey, we continue to have support here at this level. But nonetheless, anytime that we are below this 20-day moving average, that's the time we're saying, okay, well, things are starting to trend towards undervalued. And so we just want to try to do our best to try to capture the lower end of this range. And so we're not at the tip top of the Bollinger Band, so decent time to be buying. When we're at the tip top of the Bollinger Band, you kind of want to say, hey, I don't want to really be buying anything, is because typically that means that we're overbought. So for example, here. So when we're at the top of the Bollinger Band, not a great time to be buying. When we kind of touch these bottom parts of the Bollinger Band, so like here, and here, those are times where we want to say, okay, cool, let's go ahead and grab something. typically. And I got to put that caveat on there, typically, because there always is a couple of different variances that we have to look at. So Bollinger Bands is a great metric, but it's not the only metric we're going to use here. And so if we want to go ahead and pop on the 50-day moving average as well, and the 12-day EMA, we're below all of that. So whenever we're below all three, that's another confirmation to say, okay, things are looking to be undervalued. And so, that's another great sign to see. And like I was saying before, for us to stay bullish and have like a good uptrend and sustain an uptrend, we will need to get over that 48K range. And so now that we've kind of looked at everything from a moving average standpoint, let's kind of just look and see like where a lot of the volume has been over, this past, I would say, year. And so why I'm saying we have so much support at these levels is if we go ahead and take a look at the VPVR and we just take this data here from the past year. Now, what do you notice? The resistance. So you see this kind of this ledge that we can't get above. There's a lot of people that bought in this range. And then so for us to break through it, right? So for us to break through that, basically that sell wall, and we need to go ahead and get past this 48K range. Like, it's just so important. But on the opposite side, we have a major block of support. Like all of this big old ledge right here, but especially right here at this 37K range, right? And so it's all lining up. It's just a tremendous amount of support, which, like I said, I think it would take a lot for us to break just through, that 33K range especially. But really, it would take a decent amount of selling and sell pressure for us to even break through 37K. So that's what leads me to think that, we do have a good chance of staying within the range for this channel, and we might wick down below it just like here a couple times, but nonetheless, the overwhelming trend is upwards. And so, Bitcoin is looking pretty decent. It's not looking the strongest right now, but it's not looking bad whatsoever. And so we're still in that uptrend. So if we want to take a look at some of the other metrics here, so we can go ahead and look at the RSI, the MACD, and the risk metric, all three very important. What we're seeing here on the RSI, especially still, is we're kind of trending back down to this 30 level. So to these lows, great opportunity. So we'll see if we come down and touch it, but we may not. Just like here, we didn't touch it, and we're kind of back at the same level. And so the overwhelming consensus is, hey, the pricing of what we're at now is just fairly decent. And so if we want to kind of dive in and look a little closer. Now, since the bullishness and the highs of last year, we haven't really just sustained like a whole bunch of price action, especially within the RSI, above this 70 range, right? So we kind of peaked above it a little bit, not much, but we want to be able to say, okay, we're experiencing like that top. We want to be getting back up to these portions here. And so when we get back up to these portions, that's when we want to look to DCA, because that's when we have a lot of strength, especially when we pop above like that 85 to 90 range on the RSI metric. But as you can see, we've been having these local bottoms and kind of just, testing this area here. So especially within 2022, we've kind of, been within this area quite a bit. So we spent a good amount of time here. But like I said, we want to capture the bottoms. And so we want to just be able to look here at these areas as far as the attractive times we find. So we're kind of approaching that area, but nonetheless, we're not within the bulk at the higher range of the RSI. And so taking a look at the RSI, let's take a look at the MACD. So for the MACD, as you can see, especially within the past month, we've been in a solid downtrend, right? So it's kind of just been like the oscillating up and down, up and down. So for the MACD, it's not having a lot of strength. So not necessarily like Bitcoin is going in a downtrend, because we know we're in that positive uptrend in the channel. But as we like just looking primarily for like the last week and a half, it's been in a downtrend. So let me clarify that. And so, but as you can see, as we start to turn light red, that means the downtrend is losing strength. And then so through time, through the next 3 or 4 days, it's showing here on the MACD that when we flip green, then we'll start to look to have somewhat of an uptrend. And so same thing here. We haven't had downtrends too crazy, right, as far as strength on the MACD within the past, 3 months. This has been like the toughest downtrend that we've experienced. And so the worst downtrend that we had was from all-time highs. And then so we're almost approaching that, but not quite there. And then so that's leading me to just think, okay, well, what we just experienced was kind of the worst that it can really get as far as downtrends on the short-term time frame, right? And so that really wasn't that bad, because if we want to go back and look at price, what did we experience? We experienced from here to here, and so to where we are now, 15% loss. That's really not that bad, because it's very light compared to what we experienced before. Like I was saying, that was very light to this downtrend of 50%. So I'll take it. And so what does that mean? Like I said, as we're turning light red, normally that means that, hey, we're starting to trend back up. And as I'm talking, Bitcoin is getting bought back up. So we're at 40,000. And so that just, like I said, we wicked out of the channel. But as we can see, this support with this channel is continuing to be the main case that I have. And so, I think today, and especially over the next couple of days, as we try to find that 60-day cycle low, within the next week and a half, I think now is the time, in my opinion, to be eating up and trying to grab some coins this week. And so also the last metric that we want to look at before we kind of head off to some other coins is to take a look at the risk metric for Bitcoin. And so from the last time we seriously looked at the risk metric, we want to just kind of go back, a couple years, preferably, if we're below this green line, that's like the most attractive pricing with the least amount of risk. So we were there in January and March, and kind of, trending back up. And then, but I also made this alternate line here because, as you compare this to the price of Bitcoin, and you have these like the main chunk up here. So when you're above this line, a lot of the price action up here. But when you're even below this yellow line here, so you have this area here and even here and here, those are still relatively good times to be DCing into coins. So we just popped below it, within the past few days. And so, like I said, another thing to show us, hey, it's a decent time, especially from a risk aspect, because my thing is all about managing risk. You don't want to be buying, especially when we're up above this red line. That's a big no-no. And so same thing. Here was a top. Here was, major bullishness, right? So definitely don't want to be buying stuff here. We want to do all of our buying for a risk-adjusted return down here. And then when we start to experience, like I said, we get above like that 85, and we even touch like that 1, this is where you say, hey, I want to be DCing out of the market. And so we're just not there yet. And that is what you call a parabola top. That's when all the retail comes back in, like we were talking about before. And that's when we want to be talking about letting go of our positions and getting all those juicy gains, whether it's a 4, 5x, 10x, 20x. And so the risk metric is looking fairly good. So let's kind of move on. And I do want to look at Ethereum, because Ethereum is the main coin that I would suggest. And like I said, I can't give technical financial advice, but from my experience and understanding how Ethereum is continuing to take market dominance from Bitcoin through time, I do want to go ahead and look at Ethereum and just check in and see how it's doing. So we want to look at Ethereum first and foremost from that larger view. So back in 2016 to where we are now, if you knew about Ethereum back in the day, you'd have been able to buy it for $1. Now it's almost $3,000. So as you can see, here I have these numbers. These are the Elliott wave patterns, 5-wave series for Elliott waves. And so as you can see, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, trend down. Now we're back in it. 1, 2, 3. Now we just need to find that 4. So we're looking to find a 4 before we head up 5. But nonetheless, same thing. We're in the range of a channel, breakout. So anytime that you are in an uptrend, so basically uptrend, uptrend, uptrend. So wave 1, 2 to 3, 4 to 5. Those are the major uptrends, and so we want to catch those pivots, especially at the bottom of wave 2 and wave 4, which we are currently finding right now. And so same thing if you caught the last pivot from wave 2 to 3 for Ethereum, and let's say you just DCA, let's say you didn't get perfect, but let's say you just DCA this range here up to the top, you would have got a 30x. And so that's why we're looking to, buy Ethereum as a mainstay, is because Ethereum still has room to do 10x, 15, 20x's. Bitcoin, not so much. Bitcoin is more so looking at like maybe a 2x. And if we're just really, really bullish, potentially, a 3 or 4x. But Ethereum, just in general, has a lot more opportunity. And then so interesting thing is for the breakout. So generally from 2 to 3, that's going to be your larger breakout. So as you can see here, from 2 to 3, your larger breakout. And then, 4 to 5 is typically equal to, or, maybe a little bit less than that 0 to 1. And so, but a good way to see, okay, well, what is possible for a breakout is to take the largest drawdown. So this would be the largest drawdown from 1 to 2, and then put that at the breakout point. And then so the breakout point was here. And then typically for the wave 3, it'll exceed it, right? But for wave 5, a lot of the time it will, come right about to where that is. And so if you want to do that, take the largest drawdown, just try to get that line straight, and put that where the breakout is. And so that's what we don't know. As we continue to trend higher within that channel, we're going to see when that breakout may be. I don't think it's going to be very quick, so I don't think it's going to be in May, and I'm very doubtful for June, but definitely towards the back end of this year, I could see that breakout happening. And so as we continue to trend higher, and then we'll zoom in on this smaller channel and take a look at that. But what does that do? That puts Ethereum's price up to that 15K Ethereum. And so if we're just kind of looking at where we are now, and this is, speculation, but typically this is what breakouts look like once we break out of a channel. That is a solid, 5x on your money. So you're adding 400% to your position now. And so that's looking pretty good. And so, like I said, we're still searching for that 4, but then nonetheless, there's still one more leg up for that wave 5 before we hit a major drawdown bear market like we did here for this 5 major drawdown here. And so let's go ahead and dive in and look a little bit closer, because we're in a smaller channel within the larger channel, and we'll put this on the daily. But same thing, very similar to Bitcoin. Here in the channel, respecting the channel, and this median line has been pretty important. And so as you can see, we drew below the median line, use it as resistance, and the same candle is being bought back up. So what we'll look to do is to try to test that median line again, and let's see if we can break it. We want to throw on our moving averages, and there you go. So it's looking that 50-day moving average is basically helping us, scooping us up. And, we'll see, because we use it here as resistance, broke through it, came up to that 200-day moving average. And so let's see if we can use this 50-day, let it scoop us up, and then hopefully trend us back towards that 200-day moving average. And finally, maybe we can break this bad boy and start to hit or basically trend higher in the larger channel that we are in. And so, this 4 very well may be in. The 4 may be in here, but then again too. So let's go ahead and look at the bearish scenario. And so if we want to take a fib retracement from the low to the top, and something that's interesting is, we came right back down to this 0.5. And then so that is a normal pullback. So typically if we just get stopped there, then the next way up is to break back out through this 0.382, this 236, and then higher. And so that's leading me to say, hey, since we weren't super bearish and we did not come back down, especially create a lower low to this 0.786, and we didn't even touch this 0.618, that's just continuing to show us that we do have some strength here and that we're creating these higher lows, which is good. So, I'm kind of leaning towards saying that this 4 very well may be in, and then on the breakout, we're just going to try to go ahead and, figure out how we're going to break this median line. And I really think once we break this 200-day moving average and the median line, then that'll help us, hopefully we hold that as support, and then things are going to start to look really, really good. But until that happens, we can't for sure say that we have this 4 in. So we're just going to leave that here for now. And so that is Ethereum. Looks very similar to Bitcoin. So do want to go ahead and talk about the market cap dominance for Bitcoin. And so what we've seen, especially back here in 2018, so that's when we hit that peak right there at the end of 2017, beginning of 2018, that parabola top that everybody and their mama was like, hey, we need to be buying crypto. That's when Bitcoin's market dominance was at its lowest. So it's a good thing to have the market dominance trending down. So what we've seen is an A, B, C, D, E, right? And it looks like we're continuing to head down on that E wave. And so if we kind of zoom in a little bit more, we've kind of been in this box. And then so when Bitcoin trends down, that means altcoins are running. And so altcoins are going to outpace Bitcoin by quite a bit. And so if we want to look a little closer, we were kind of coming down. So we were coming down pretty strong, but then we kind of stalled out here. And then so over the past, couple weeks, we stalled out. And then so what we want to see is kind of that next leg down and allow alts to run. And then that's, why we hold these altcoins, and good altcoins, not just any coin that, Joe Schmo from down the street told us about, but quality coins that actually do something, have a good community. That's the stuff that we want to hold, and we want to have a balanced portfolio between like the larger cap coins that have more stability and less downside risk. And we may take a flyer on 1 or 2 tokens that we believe in, just so we can try to get those X's, right? But we don't want to be over leveraged into those very small, like $1 million, $5 million, even like those $10 million market cap coins. We don't want to just bombard our portfolio with like 80 or 90% of those, because you're going to put yourself at a very high risk level. So like I said, we'll look to see the dominance trend lower, and nonetheless, it's been trending lower. And so hopefully we can start to see it bump down into like that 40%, and even hopefully come down to this line to that 38%, which would be really nice for the altcoins. So I did want to go ahead and take a look at another coin, a coin that I've mentioned a few times in the Telegram chat, and that is Gala. And so Gala is very interesting because it very much reminds me of Ethereum Bitcoin when it was early on, or when they were early on in their life cycles. And so, Gala has done some incredible things, and it's very recognizable because it's on Coinbase. People understand this whole metaverse thing more and more every day. And so people just say, okay, well, it's 18 cents. And even when it was lower, when it was fractions of a penny even, and even 3 and 4 cents, Gala has been an amazing performer. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and look. So we see these just rips, very similar to Bitcoin and Ethereum when they're early on. Rips up, kind of trend down, people take their profits, rip up, trend sideways, and then a big rip up. Same thing, trend down, people take their profits. And then so we've been in this parallel channel. And then same thing, we've been creating higher lows. So the interesting thing is, as we find the 4, so we can really do the same thing, right? So if we want to go ahead and look at things from an Elliott wave perspective, 1, 2, 3, finding 4, then up to 5, right? We have a great opportunity here. And so, just kind of looking back at what it's done, I mean, if you catch these pivot points, right? So after these consolidations, right? So this major consolidation, you catch that, you're up about a 150% X on your money. That's not too shabby, all right? Same thing here. If you caught this pivot point here, so at the bottom of the wave 2, 129x on your money, right? So I don't think we're going to continue to see these 100x plus for Gala, but I really think that as this coin matures, we still have a lot of great opportunities. And I'm saying, hey, like 15x is definitely on the table. And let's talk about why. And so if we want to go ahead and just do a fib retracement, so let's go ahead and do a fib retracement from this top. And like I said, we're finding that 4, right? But let's just say, boom, put it to where it got its lowest. Let's line that up just a little bit better. So right here, and let's say we continue to stay on this trend and we kind of even pop back down here, and it takes a little bit longer, right? What we've noticed is it has outperformed even the top of its fib retracement, but typically it gets to this top of this fib retracement, which is sitting right about 15x. But even if you look at its previous times and its previous drawdowns, it has outpaced that tremendously. And so, as you can see, it outpaced it. And very interesting because it got right to the top, consolidated a little bit more, and then pumped a little bit more, right? And same thing here from this drawdown, significantly outpaced it, right? And so for a wave 5, most likely not going to be as powerful as a wave 3. I would say it has a good chance of getting right to that 4.2 top, right? And so 15x is, I think, in my opinion, is definitely on the table for Gala. So we'll keep our eyes on that, or I'll keep my eye on that, and I'll let you guys know how it goes, because I have been accumulating Gala, throughout these lows, snatching it here about like in between like 20 cents, and I think the lowest I was able to grab it is about like 18 cents. And so my story with Gala is why I'm definitely diving back into it, because I was buying Gala back here on this breakout when it was 4 cents, and I thought I was smart because it kind of came all the way up to like 14 cents, and I was like, cool, I got like a 3-4x on my money, and I took my whole position back, and I was like, yes, great. And then it just rocketed up and took off and went up to like 80 cents. And then so I'm just like, I left so much on the table, because if I would have just held my coins, I would have been able to experience a 17x and not just like a 3 or 4x. At the time, I didn't understand quite what the pattern was. Now I see what the pattern is for Gala, so that's why I'm really asking you guys to consider, take a look. Obviously not financial advice, but Gala has legs, and so that's what I'm seeing here on the chart for Gala. One thing is I do want to look at some on-chain stuff. So as we all know, Luna has had an exceptional, last 3 months, right? Creating an all-time high last month and kind of trickling back down. And so as we look at Luna, one thing that we know as far as what they're doing, they are using Bitcoin to back their stablecoin UST. So the ownership of Luna, they came out publicly and they said, hey, we look to be the largest Bitcoin holder outside of Satoshi. And so that means beating Michael Saylor, beating Tesla, and trying to beat a lot of these exchanges that hold a lot of Bitcoin. So what we've seen is they have been increasing their positions, and we're talking about 100 million at a time, 150 million at a time. But one thing that I continue to look at is seeing, okay, well, are they sticking to their word of what they said they were going to do? And they have been. And then so they have been accumulating heavily, right? And so, before they started really accumulating, they only had about 9,500 Bitcoin. Today, they're at 42,000 Bitcoin. And so they've to date only spent about $1.8 trillion. They said that they want to get to $1.8 billion. They want to get to, excuse me, tongue tied. They want to get to $10 billion as their holdings. So they are 1/5 of the way there. So as we know, we see these larger entities and players start to accumulate. That should just be a big sign to you saying, you know what? Hey, if they're accumulating at these levels heavily, I probably want to do the same thing. I do want to take a look at a couple of other on-chain metrics just to, like I said, give you guys a big view of how holding is always a good thing to do. Don't necessarily always think on the short term, because when you do that, that puts you at more risk. And a lot of times people get wrecked when they're always trying to trade on a short term basis, whether it's a couple of days, a couple of weeks, or even a couple of months. And so what we are seeing is the longer that you hold your Bitcoin, the better chance that you have to be in profit. And so basically, this green portion here is everyone in profit for Bitcoin. The only people who aren't in profit are the people who bought tops. And so with that being said, how do you solve this? By holding, because Bitcoin, as it's always done through time, trends higher and higher. And so how do you go ahead and limit your risk? Buy these lows, DCA during these lows, even if you did buy at these tops. We see the story here. DCA these lows because they'll help you. And as you get your cost basis down, you go ahead and become a part of that group that is in profit through time. So this is a good thing to keep in the back of your mind, and saying, hey, I'm in this journey, and I know if I just hold these good quality coins to the top of that wave 5, especially, I could, get the most of, my purchasing power from buying these lows and get a really good return on my investment. And then if we have like a drawdown, so we have a drawdown bear market like we did here and here, then that's where we want to come back into the market and buy everything on a severe discount. We're talking 80-90% discount when we get to these bear market lows. But we still have a leg up for the wave 5, and so we're just not there yet. Let's go ahead and take a look here. So this is the NVT signal. And so basically it's a metric that oscillates up and down, this blue line. This dark blue is the Bitcoin price. And what we notice is when we kind of pop back down to this lower portion, all of these points were just great risk-adjusted times to be buying Bitcoin. But nonetheless, we're focusing on the rest of the crypto market. And then so as you see, and we can go all the way back to 2013, great time when we were touching below or even close to this line here. Great time to be DCAing here as well. And if you notice, anytime that we're below this line or close to it, price goes up from here, right? So it may not always be a bear market low, but when we get to this line, price trends up. And that's just the main thing. We want to be able to buy at points where price is trending up, not down. So we want to stay away from these tops, right? Or even this median portion, right? We don't want to be buying things in the median portion, right? Boom, right here, we came severely low it. And what happened? Price went up from there. As you can see, it went up significantly. And Bitcoin did a double during that time. So we're back here early 2022 and kind of coming back down to it. But same thing here. We're close to this line. What happens from here? We go up. So that's the NVT signal. And you can look at these signals here on lookintobitcoin.com. Great site. One thing that, always looking at is the fear and greed index. So anytime that we are in these crevasses and we start to see this like light, or I'd say this dark orange to red, and we start to see that we are 25 and below, generally these are great times of DCA. So I have it zoomed in for, I'd say the past year and a half, but 19, 13, great time to pick stuff up. And then we've kind of hit these lower portions throughout the past few months. But as we are here today, we are back here at 24. And so my philosophy is any times that we're in the dark orange to red, decent time to be DCAing. When we pop into like the lighter orange, or really we start to get like above like 30 and we start trending higher, we probably want to lay off of buying crypto. But the best times to be buying is below 25. And the time to really, really be trying to just do some like really, really good purchase orders is when we are hopping below 15. So if that happens over the next week or so, come take a look at this metric and say, okay, where are we at? We below 25. Okay, I can be looking to buy some stuff. Pop below 15. Hey, you need to be thinking about buying pretty heavy, in my opinion. And last thing I want to look at as we wrap up is just the active address sentiment indicator. So sentiment is a big part of crypto, right? Because it's not just on chain as far as like metrics. As far as, okay, well, what is the price action doing? Or even the TA is seeing, different fib levels and different different levels for like Elliott wave or 6-day cycles. This is just measuring sentiment. How are people feeling? Because, a lot of markets are based upon feeling. And so Same thing here. We have our lower bound in green, our higher bound in red. What we don't want to do is buy when we're above the red. What we want to do is buy when we are close to this green. And then so how do we know that we are at a top or we are at a very overvalued portion? When we start to see these large wicks up here like that. So we had a large wick at the cycle top here in 2017, and we got overheated at the beginning of 2021. And so that was kind of like your saying, hey, sentiment is pretty high, right? You want to consider DCAing out. And then we eventually got to our top. But if you're paying attention, because like we know, we like to buy these lows, right? You would have been paying attention, DCAing here, and all these portions while we were low, to where it would have made perfect sense for you to start DCAing out here, because you had been up, especially on Ethereum and some of these altcoins, 15, 20x, and even more on, some of the lower cap altcoins, right? And then so here, as we go to our next wave up, we're looking to DCA close to this green line here. And so we're kind of trending back down. But the main thing is, not DCAing when we're at the top. And so there's the metric for that. And that's about it, guys. So I know it was a lot of information. I kind of went fast, but I wanted to give you guys just a bulk overview of everything I'm seeing. What I'm seeing is a great time to DCA. I think that we are not in a bear market. There's so much support at that 37K level. If we break it, then I say, hey, we still stay in that uptrend and that long-term uptrend, and say, hey, worst case scenario, we might drop down to like that 30 to 32K range. But nonetheless, we are, feeling pretty good here. And so I hope everybody is doing well. I hope you took some value from this video. We talked about a couple other coins, not just Bitcoin, so Ethereum and Gala. And, I think we are looking up. Hopefully we can just have that retail market get back into the game, and we just have some macro events that, get people more excited about crypto. But the time to be buying crypto are when people are not excited, and then we wait for them to come, and then we DCA out when they come, right? And so that's it. Hope everybody just enjoys the rest of their week. Be in touch. Talk to you guys soon. Peace.